Chapter 941. Shun Miao frowned slightly. That Taoist priest casually picked up a willow branch, and like a child, he hummed an unknown tune as he continued to walk forward while swaying back and forth. She had no choice but to follow. The priest walked for a long time and was afraid of delaying matters. Luo Tin did not dare to complain, and Shun Miao did not say anything either. They did not know what time it was, and only felt that the sky was getting darker and the sun was getting weaker. The priest suddenly stopped and said, "We have arrived." Luo Tan and Shun Miao both took 2 steps forward and saw that in front of them was a huge mountain valley. This valley was filled with fragrant flowers, and it was already the height of summer in June, and the flowers and plants were in full bloom. In addition to the golden rays of the setting sun, the 5-colored flowing lights made it seem as if they had arrived at a paradise on earth, and one would feel that it was unreal. "This place is so beautiful," Luo Tin exclaimed. Priest Qi Yin looked at Shun Miao. Did Foreign discover anything? Shun Miao only felt that there was a faintly discernible medicinal fragrance in the air and looked at the flowers and plants everywhere. Even though they were bright, they did not seem to be the same as ordinary flowers and plants. She hesitated for a moment before saying, "Are they medicinal herbs?" Taoist priest Scarlet Flame laughed. "Exactly. Although I can't save your husband and can't change his fate, my master has a medicinal valley with a stock of herb that can cure 100 poisons. This stock of herb can save your husband's life." Shun Miao did not tell Taoist priest Qi Yin about Xie Jingxing's injuries, but Taoist priest Qi Yin was able to tell that Xie Jingxing was poisoned. Luo Tan looked at the strange Taoist in admiration, but Shun Miao did not think much of it, as she had already expected that this strange Taoist had some skills. It was not strange at all. She said, I beg Dao Zhang to give me the medicine that can cure 100 poisons and save my husband's life." Qi Yin smiled. "This herb was left by my great master. It has been placed in this medicine valley. Until now, there is only one in the world. If an ordinary person were to eat it, their lifespan would be prolonged. If a poisoned person were to eat it, their illness would naturally be cured. This stock of medicinal herb is so precious. How can I give it to you for free?" "You are a compassionate Taoist priest," Luo Tan said. "If it is gold and silver, my youngest Biao sister can afford it. What do you want in exchange?" Shun Miao also said, "As long as it is within my ability, I will definitely do it for priest." "What if I want Foreign's life in exchange?" Qi Yin said slyly. Shun Miao was startled, and before she could speak, Luo Tan said, "You are such a bully. How can there be such conditions?" Qi Yin waved his hand and said, "Monks are merciful. I am a Taoist priest, so naturally, I will not do this kind of murder and arson. It's just a joke. I have a question that I need to ask Foreign." He looked at Shun Miao, who was momentarily stunned. "Can Foreign dispel my doubts?" "Miao Shen Fu. Priest Shen Shun's is Taoist is Fu, Shun Shun tu, Shi Hao tu Di Hao He. But how to? If one invested too much emotion, one would be hurt deeper in the future. Everything in her past life was a living example. She could try to love again, but she did not dare to have a strong love and could not afford to gamble." "Youngest Biao sister?" Luo Tan shook her arm. Shun Miao settled her mind and looked at the Taoist priest. "Taoist priest, please speak." "Look." The Taoist priest crouched down and pointed to a small flower in the grass. "This is red sleeve grass. It is an elixir that can treat coughs. But these days it does not bloom much. Foreign, what is the reason?" Chapter 942. What did this mean? Shun Miao was not a doctor and did not even know how to distinguish the medicinal herbs. So how could she see these problems? But she still squatted down and took a closer look. She saw that the flower bud was densely packed with black spots. Her heart moved and said, "Most likely there are insects." This priest also thinks so. Qi Yin had a distressed face. "But this red sleeve grass is the most delicate, and one cannot use medicine to expel insects, but it attracts insects the most. To get rid of these insects, one can only use one's hands to pull it out bit by bit, and one's actions must be gentle, otherwise the petals will be damaged." Luo Tan said, "So it is like this, but what does this have to do with us?" Priest Qi Yin stood up and saw Shin Miao also standing up before smiling. But this priest is a male, and one's actions are rough and usually not very careful. One fear that one would not be able to pick clearly, and one would damage the petals if one is not careful. These are all rare elixirs and are very precious, so one would like to ask for one to help me pick out the insects on them. Luo Tan's eyes widened. This priest let Shin Miao come over because he treated Shin Miao as a flower farmer? Shin Miao asked, after picking out all these insects, will this priest give me the herb that can cure hundreds of poisons? Qi Yin nodded his head. All right, I will do it. Shin Miao intended to immediately immerse herself in the task. Luo Tan did not speak anymore. It was not a loss to be a flower farmer for a while and earn a medicinal herb. But Qi Yin shook his head and led Shin Miao and Luo Tan a few steps forward. It is the red sleeve grass here. When the two of them saw it, they were somewhat stunned. It was a large field of medicinal herbs, and it was almost as much as the farmland of a large family added together. Moreover, the medicinal herbs in the entire field were not neatly grown. Some red sleeve grass and some other grasses grew together and were incomparably dense. It would take a lot of effort to find those red sleeve grass, not to mention there were so many red sleeve grass. To pick out all the insects, one did not know how long it would take. Are you deliberately playing with us? Luo Tan suddenly jumped up and said angrily, these things, how can one person pick out all of them? Qi Yin just looked at Shin Miao with a smile. Foreign also think that one person cannot pick out all of them, and one cannot do it alone. Shin Miao only looked at him deeply and said, after finishing all these, will Taoist priest really give you the herbs? Cousin, Luo Tan panicked. He's obviously playing tricks on you. If he really wanted to save them, why would he suggest such an impossible task? How does he look like a compassionate person? Qi Yin said, little girl, you're wrong. There is no such thing as a free lunch in this world. In this world, there were gains and losses, and there were gains and losses. If you wanted something, you had to pay the corresponding price. If this madam wants my medicinal herbs, then she has to help me get rid of the insects on the other herbs. This is a very fair thing. Moreover, isn't it up to this madam to decide whether I can complete the task or not? He said, pick out the insects on the flower buds of the red sleeve grass, then fertilize the herbs on the mountain, and I will return the herbs to you. He raised his horsetail whisk again and said, you can't fool around. I will check the herbs at the end. If you are even half-hearted, then I won't give you the herbs. Also, he looked at Luo Tan again. This young lady cannot come and help. Foreign, can you do it? I can do it, and hope that Taoist priest will keep his promise. After saying this, Shin Miao jumped into the herb thicket, bent down, and began to seriously pick up the insects. A dignified Qin Wang Fei, who was a pampered and spoiled official's daughter, was actually a flower girl and an herb farmer for a mountain villager. Even those herb farmers would not do so much work, pick the insects, and fertilize. Luo Tan really could not imagine Shin Miao's frail body carrying the fertilizer. She only felt that if Shun Xian and Shun Xiao in the Ding capital knew about it, they would definitely be furious. Chapter 943. But when would Shin Miao go back on her decision? Luo Tan clenched her teeth and wanted to go over to help, but was stopped by Shin Miao. Stop. If you do not wish for me to hate you, then do not come down. She spoke harshly, but Luo Tan's eyes were red and her heart was flustered. If she knew that Shin Miao would be led by the nose, she would not have told Shin Miao about running to the moon. Now it was a sin to implicate Shin Miao to suffer and be cheated by others. She shouted, but this strange Taoist priest is clearly playing with you. Is it worth it? I did not do anything for him. Shin Miao did not even lift her head as she seriously took care of the flowers and plants. If there's a glimmer of possibility, then do it. She then said, if you're really thinking for me, then help me find one or make a lantern yourself. Later when the sky turns dark and one cannot see it, I will have a light. Luo Tan took a deep breath, and in a blink of an eye, she saw Taoist priest Qi Yin smiling as he walked towards the other side with his horsetail whisk. She quickly followed and said, strange Taoist priest, listen to me first. Shin Miao was squatting in the flowering shrubs. She had not done such things for a long time and was not used to it. She did not feel that there was anything unbearable about picking insects and fertilizing for others. In this world, self-esteem and whatnot were not used at such times. When one should bend down, one should bend down. When one could not use schemes, one should obediently do manual labor and not do futile things. In her previous life, she had spent her entire life in the cold palace to finally understand this principle. If she had given up fighting with Mei Foran earlier and lowered her head, perhaps Mei Foran would not be so against Fu Ming and Wan Yu. Why would she let herself suffer a loss just because she wanted to be strong? Revenge? Unwillingness? These could be thought about later, as the present was the most important. If Qi Yin was able to keep his promise, then it was worth it for her to suffer. To do some manual labor like a village woman in this wilderness was much more honorable than sitting on the Empress's throne in her previous life and being ridiculed by everyone. It was just that one did not know how long it would take to gather the red sleeve grass in this valley, and there was no time to waste if one lied to her. Shen Miao could not help but smile bitterly. When Luo Tan brought the lantern over, the sky was already dark. In the valley at night, there was a cool breeze, bright stars, the moon, and the chirping of cicadas, but Shen Miao was not in the mood to appreciate it. In the middle of the night, she carried a lantern and touched the herbs one by one. Carrying a heavy load, she staggered as she walked. There were mosquitoes and flies around her. Her delicate skin was bitten and swollen, and her hands were pricked. She did not rest for the whole night. Luo Tan burst into tears, but she couldn't help. She could only curse Qi Yin in her heart. Finally, it was the afternoon of the second day. Shen Miao wiped the perspiration off her forehead and placed the empty pole down for Qi Yin, Taoist priest, to take a look. Priest Qi Yin laughed. "There is no need to look. You have done very well." He then took out a small box from his personal luggage and handed it over to Shen Miao. Shen Miao opened it to take a look and indeed saw a stalk of medicinal herb lying inside. "This is the herb." Taoist priest Scarlet Flame smiled. "You helped me heal all the red sleeve grass on the mountain, and I'll use it to heal your husband's injury. I will keep my promise." Luo Tan angrily said, "This is a profit for you." Foran's persistence made this priest look at you in a new light. "I hope that no matter what happens in the future, Foran will think of today's sincerity. If Foran had a little bit of luck, the insects would not have been completely removed, and this herb would not be in Foran's hands." Many thanks for the priest's gift. Shen Miao was in a hurry to rush back. The moment she received the herb, she felt a deep weakness all over her body. She did not sleep all night, and these days she did not rest well. She was like a fully stretched bow, and now that she relaxed, she felt that her head was heavy and her feet light. Many thanks for the priest's gift. Luo Tan was very dissatisfied with this priest's strange request, and looking at Shen Miao's sorry state, her heart was very uncomfortable. Shen Miao was the calmest and most calm person in the Luo and Shen family, but now she was teased by others without any leeway to retaliate, making her very unreconciled. She said, "Also hope that in the future the red sleeve grass will not have any more insects. In the future, there will not be anyone as kind as my youngest Biao sister to be an herb farmer and do all the work in the mountain for you. Even those herb farmers would not do their best in one night." Taoist priest Scarlet Flame laughed out loud. "That cannot be said. I and Foran have met 3 times, and this is only 2. There will still be one more time." Luo Tan's lips twitched. "Who wants to meet?" She pulled Shen Miao and said, "I will support you. Let's go down the mountain." She then said to Taoist priest Scarlet Flame, "Priests should also hurry up. One is still waiting for the thing to save lives." Taoist priest Scarlet Flame followed behind and looked at their backs. His gaze landed on Shen Miao's slightly staggering footsteps, and the smile on his face disappeared as a trace of pity flashed in his eyes. After a long while, he shook his head and spat out 2 words. "Futile." Chapter 944. Shen Miao and Luo Tan returned to the initial thatched hut. Fennel and Star Anise stood under a locust tree and looked into the distance while Tsong Yang and Mo Ching sat under the tree, hugging their swords with their brows furrowed tightly. Fennel suddenly said, "They are here." Octagonal Aniseed hurried over and saw Luo Tan and Shun Miao following behind the strange Taoist priest. Luo Tan was still fine, but Shun Miao seemed to have tripped over somewhere. She was covered in mud, and her hair was a mess. There was a strange smell coming from her. Fennel and Star Anise looked at each other and had the same thought. Star Anise asked, "Foreign, you are—" Just as Luo Tan was about to speak, Shun Miao pulled her sleeves. When she looked up, Shun Miao shook her head at her and swallowed the words that were about to come out of her mouth. Shun Miao said, "Let's go." Priest Chi Yin said, "Since you are in a hurry, there is no need to take the path that you came from. Let me show you a shortcut." He brought the few of them around, and when they reached one side, there was an impressively endless farmland. In these crisscrossed farmland, there was a clearly visible path. Ben Yu once said that the path that the siblings took had farmland and small paths. Now it coincided with the path in front of them. It seemed that the siblings did not take the path that Shun Miao and the rest came from, but this path. Chi Yin said, "You all follow this path straight ahead, and you'll be able to reach the exit." He then looked at Shun Miao and smiled. This priest once told Foreign that Foreign will face a calamity. Shun Miao looked at him calmly. Priest is trying to say that the calamity is about to appear. The calamity is born in response to heaven's will, and the mysteries of heaven cannot be revealed. The priest smiled mysteriously. However, not long later, this priest and Foreign will meet again. At that time, one hoped that Foreign can be like last night and remove all the bugs on the red sleeve grass. At that time, the calamity will have a chance to be resolved. His words were neither yin nor yang and were unclear. The others were confused, and Shun Miao also did not understand. However, there wasn't much for him to do here right now. If he didn't make a mistake, including the time when he left and the night he stayed here, today was already the 6th day. That Yuan Guan would at best last for 10 days. Moreover, the old imperial physician said that Xie Jingxing's poison had already started to spread and would be in danger in around 7 days. There was no time to linger. After saying goodbye to Chi Yin, Shun Miao and others walked on the path in the field. Just as Taoist priest Scarlet Flame had said, the path was much easier than the one they had walked in the forest the day before. When they were about to board the carriage, Finxiang could not help but ask, "Foreign, what did that priest make you do? What happened last night?" She looked at Shun Miao's sorry figure and could not believe that nothing happened. Shun Miao said, "Nothing much. It is more important to return first." They were the first to board the carriage and saw that Shun Miao was unwilling to talk more. Even though Finxiang and the rest were suspicious, they were helpless. In addition, Xie Jingxing's injuries could not be delayed, and they quickly rode back. In the carriage, Luo Tan asked Shun Miao, "Biao youngest sister, why did you not say anything?" In Luo Tan's view, for Shun Miao to suffer so much because of Xie Jingxing, it was touching no matter what. Even if it was a husband and wife from an ordinary family, they would be able to do this for each other. A young lady from a noble family was willing to kneel down to be a herb farmer and do it for an entire night. Not everyone would be able to do that. Shun Miao suffered, but did not tell others and instead hid it. What benefits was there in doing that? Doing all these is not for others to show off. Shun Miao said. Moreover, if it were to spread out, it would damage the face of the residents of Prince Rue. This matter ends here, and you must not tell others. Chapter 945. Luo Tan asked, "Even Prince Rue cannot know?" Shun Miao nodded her head. Luo Tan said, "I know." She then said to Shun Miao, "You rest for a while first." After going back and forth, it would be tomorrow when one reaches Long Yi. You were busy all night last night and did not rest at all. Now you look very haggard. Even if I help you to hide it, one would not be able to hide your appearance from others. Shun Miao nodded her head and closed her eyes as she leaned against the back of the carriage. After being busy all night yesterday, she was indeed sleepy and tired and was almost on the edge. There was no need to hold on, and almost immediately fell asleep the moment she closed her eyes. She did not care about the jolting of the carriage. This night's sleep was very short, and it seemed that she did not sleep for long before Shen Miao was shaken awake. When she opened her eyes, it was Octagon and Niece looking at her. "Foreign, young Lady Luo has returned to the residence." Luo Tan also woke up, and both of them jumped off the carriage. It was actually the morning of the second day, and the sun was already high up in the sky. Shen Miao rubbed her forehead, and when she saw that there was no one guarding the doors of Prince Rui's residence, her heart turned cold. The residence of the prince of first rank had always been heavily guarded, and the guards at the door were people from Mou's army. Normally they were very strict, but now that there was no one around, could it be that something happened? Luo Tin also saw it, and had a bad premonition in her heart, but she was afraid of making Shen Miao sad, so she did not dare to say a word. It was Mo Qing who said, "Foreign, let's go in and take a look first." Song Yang and the rest were Xie Jingxing subordinates and naturally had a worried expression. When they walked into the residence of the prince of first rank, they saw that it was empty, and their hearts became more suspicious and uneasy. Shen Miao walked in a hurry and almost bumped into someone. That person jumped in shock and turned back to look, but Shen Miao was stunned. "Foreign, you have returned." This person was Uncle Tang. Uncle Tang's clothes were in a sorry state, and no longer had the usual astute look. Shen Miao quickly asked, "What happened? Why is there no one in the residence?" "Foreign, why did you only return now?" One did not know how the news of Master's life hanging by a thread was spread out. These days there were many people probing openly and secretly. The residents wanted help to hide it, and the people from the imperial court also came over. It is really a mess. Ji Foreign came several times to inquire about your whereabouts, and also the emperor. Luo Tan said, "Youngest Biao's sister is also busy helping brother-in-law to look for that expert. Speaking of which, we have already gotten right." Uncle Tang slapped his head. "I forgot to tell you a piece of good news. Master is awake." Shen Miao and Luo Tan were stunned at the same time before Shen Miao asked, "Awake?" "Yes." Uncle Tang said, "Foreign may not know, but the night Foreign left, Zhuzi's wound suddenly split open. The poison could not be stopped no matter what. The imperial physicians in the palace all said that the Yuan pill could not save Zhuzi's life. Even young Master Gao couldn't do anything about it. He said that in less than 2 days, Master will be in trouble." Uncle Tang's words were full of twists and turns. Everyone's hearts sank. Luan was in quick and could not help and could not and said, "Wu," Li said. Tan was long in Ruckming. Luo Ji Foreign was anxious. Seeing that the entire Long Yi kingdom knew about it, she simply posted a notice outside, asking for doctors who passed by to treat her mistress's illness. They would definitely reward them handsomely. Coincidentally, someone uncovered the notice and invited him in. He gave his master a medicinal herb, and young Master Gao refined the herb into a pill for his master to consume. His master's wounds gradually healed, and he even woke up in the wee hours of the morning. Young Master Gao and the imperial physician in the palace had seen that Master's injuries were gradually recovering, and the poison was also cured. Chapter 946. Uncle Tang finished speaking in one breath and paused before sighing. Everyone said that Master's life should not end like this. 2 years ago, others also said that Master could not make it, but Master managed to pull through. Now, that it is like this, it is really heaven's benevolence, and it is also the late Empress who is blessing Master from heaven. When Shen Miao heard that Xie Jingxing's poison had been cured, she was really relieved this time. Ba Jiao and the rest also patted their chests, and their suspended hearts were finally put back into their stomachs. Luo Tan looked at Shen Miao and thought that it was not easy for Shen Miao to obtain this stock of medicinal herb from that harsh and strange Taoist priest's hands, but now that medicinal herb was useless. Who asked that passerby to uncover this notice for no reason? But after thinking about it, that person still managed to cure Xie Jingxing and felt that there was nothing wrong with that person. It was just that looking at Shen Miao secretly felt that it was not worth it and felt that Shen Miao had done so much for nothing. Uncle Tang said again, when Master just woke up, he asked Foreign, "Where did Foreign go?" Foreign did not allow this old servant to casually speak of this matter, and these days Foreign did not return. This old servant was afraid that something would happen, and was afraid that Master's imagination would run wild and cause his injuries to worsen, so this was concealed. Shun Miao said, "You did very well." She didn't want others to know that she went to find Qi Yan. On the one hand, she was afraid of being taken advantage of by others. On the other hand, if a person was too sad about something, it would become an obvious weakness of that person. If one day others wanted to deal with Shun Miao, they only needed to lay their hands on Xie Jingxing. Shun Miao did not want to expose her weakness too early. Moreover, Shun Miao did not dare to be sure how Xie Jingxing would view her somewhat rash actions. She only wanted to wait for a few days when Xie Jingxing's injuries were better before explaining everything to him. "I will go and see him first," Shun Miao said. "Foreign." Uncle Tang stopped her and said, "Master had just taken the medicine that Gentleman Gao brewed and is resting now. It is not good for Foreign to go." Shun Miao muttered to herself and looked at Uncle Tang. Why is there not even a guard at the residence's entrance, and why is it so chaotic? There do not seem to be many people. What's going on? Uncle Tang smiled in shame and said, "Too many things have happened these days. This old servant actually forgot to tell Madam about this matter." Even though the entire Longyi knew that the Master had been saved and that the Master was safe and sound after walking through a life and death situation, Ji Foreign and young Master Ji could not be at ease and had been staying in the Fu for the past few days. This old servant also concealed Madam's whereabouts from them, only saying that Madam went to find a doctor for help. As for the people who saved Master's life, it can be considered as Master's kindness. This old servant placed them in the residence. Today, Master woke up and Ji Foreign and the others also went to see him. That benefactor is now sitting in the hall of the mansion. Mrs. Ji and young Master Ji are all in the hall, saying that they want to reward him well. However, my benefactor is not someone who covets power. Previously, I wanted to give them a huge sum of money, but they refused. Then what does he want? Luo Tan asked. Didn't the results come out? If it is not to ask for something, why would he want to do it? Uncle Tang looked at Luo Tan and smiled. This old servant's heart is also puzzled. Ji Foreign had asked the benefactor, and the benefactor said that he happened to pass by and coincidentally he saw the results. He remembered that the benefactor's ancestors passed down a stalk of spiritual herb that could cure 100 poisons. Thinking that this herb could save a life, he did not think much and came to our residence after the results came out. Luo Tan shrugged her shoulders. That is of noble character and unquestionable integrity. I'm not able to do that. One have to weigh the things passed down from the ancestors. To save strangers that one has never met before, it really requires boldness. Uncle Tang also smiled. It is indeed so. Then he looked at Shun Miao and said, Ji Foreign is also having a headache because of this matter, and this old servant could not make a decision. But since Foreign is back, it is good. Foreign, come take a look and see what to give them. Chapter 9:47. Since they are the benefactors, I will go and meet them first. Shun Miao's eyes drooped down. Are they in the main hall now? Exactly. Uncle Tang said, this old servant is about to head over. Just nice, Foreign can also head over. Shun Miao nodded her head and Luo Tan quickly followed. Along the way, Uncle Tang seemed to have suddenly thought of something and said, speaking of which, those two benefactors seem to have just arrived in Longyi and are not familiar with Longyi. They said that they are here to look for relatives. Ji Foreign thought that in a few days' time, we will help the two of them out and our Prince of First-Rank residents can also contribute. It would be good if we could post some notices outside. Two benefactors? Shun Miao asked, why are there two? That is a pair of siblings. Uncle Tang smiled. Their age is about the same as Foreign's, and they are also very outstanding. Ji Foreign is warm-hearted and wanted to introduce some talented youths and young ladies to that pair of siblings. They look very sensible, and after coming to our residence for a few days, they're getting along well with the servants in the residence. The servants in the residence of Prince Rui were all trained by Xie Jingxing from the MOU army, And even if they were not from the MOU army, they were all people with firm minds. Shen Miao had been in the residence of Prince Rue for the past few days and saw that these people had their own rules and regulations. It was difficult for a person like Xie Jingxing, who had no regard for rules and was undisciplined, to train up a group of subordinates that were so strict to the point of self-abuse. And to be able to get along well with these people was not something that an ordinary person could do. No matter how warm-hearted one was, there would be a basic level of vigilance and boundaries between people, especially the people from the residence of Prince Rue. One did not know if it was Shen Miao's intuition, but she felt that this pair of benefactors were not simple. Luo Tan was curious. In that case, this pair of siblings are extremely good people. Approximately. Uncle Tang smiled. No matter what, to be able to save Master's life, one would be a guest of honor for life in the residence of Prince Rue. Just as they were speaking, they had already walked to the entrance of the main hall, and upon entering, they saw Ji Foreign and the three Darren sitting in the middle of the room. Ji Darren was talking to Ji Foreign about something. Seeing Shen Miao following behind Uncle Tang, Ji Foreign immediately stood up and quickly walked forward to say, "Jiaonyang, you're finally back." There were some Furins in the hall, but Shen Miao had never seen them before. Shen Miao looked at Ji Foreign with some doubt. Ji Foreign noticed her gaze and said in a low voice, "These are the Furins who came to visit Jingxing. It is not easy to send them back during the day, so they can only sit here." Shen Miao understood that Xie Jingxing's position in Longyi was really delicate, and his life and death was related to the life and death of many people in the imperial court. And to see if he was really dead, those court officials could not come forward and let their foreign come to see him in the name of comforting Ji Foreign. Comforting was in name, but seeing Xie Jingxing's injuries was real. Xie Jingxing woke up this morning, and most likely these Furins specially rushed over to see if it was real or fake. Madame Ji said, "Where have you been these past few days? Housekeeper Tang said that you want to find a doctor, but he couldn't find you. I almost couldn't even deal with this group of people. You're finally back." At the end of the words, there was a little complaint. "Jingxing is still not awake. I know that you are anxious, so you want to find a doctor, but no matter what, you should accompany your husband's side. When he woke up this morning, he was disappointed not to see you. Now your identity is not an official's young lady, but the Wang Fei of the residence of Prince Rue. One must think of the cause and effect before doing things, as there are many eyes watching." Even though the words were not pleasant to hear, Shen Miao knew that Ji Foreign was thinking for her. Moreover, it was reasonable that Ji Foreign's blood relation was Xie Jingxing and not her, Shen Miao. Before the reason was explained, her action of leaving without saying goodbye was indeed overboard and unreasonable. Thus, Shen Miao did not feel wronged by Ji Foreign's words of criticism. Chapter 948. Ji Foreign had just finished speaking to Shen Miao in a low voice when a matron in the hall looked at Shen Miao and said with a smile, "Qin Wang Fei has calculated. These few days when we came to visit, we did not see Qin Wang Fei. We thought that Qin Wang Fei was heartbroken because His Highness the First Prince was bedridden and thus did not come out. Our hearts were very worried and were afraid that something would happen. Now that we see that Qin Wang Fei is fine, we are relieved." These words were saying that Shen Miao was not qualified to be Rue Wang Fei. As a Wang Fei, her own husband was seriously injured in bed, and she did not even show her face. She did not stay by the bedside and did not come out to meet the guests. Not only was her movement suspicious, she was also cold and heartless. Ji Foreign's expression was somewhat ugly. Shen Miao smiled slightly and said to that foreign indifferently, "The family is in chaos and have troubled foreign to worry." The meaning behind her words was that she did not need to trouble an outsider to worry about her own residence's matters. Shen Miao was a person who would become stronger when meeting strong people. She had to be soft when dealing with Xie Jingxing, that kind of unfathomable person, but she did not need to think too much when dealing with a brainless female. Thus her words were especially sarcastic. That foreign was speechless, but when she turned sideways, her appearance was clearly exposed in front of everyone. One could only hear another foreign exclaiming, "Rue Wang Fei, What happened to you? Why are your clothes so dirty? Could it be that you fell? Then she suddenly covered her nose and revealed an extremely uncomfortable look. G. Foreign and G. Darren were surprised. Uncle Tang was also surprised, and everyone's eyes in the hall focused on Shun Miao. Only then did they discover that Shun Miao's clothes were covered with mud and dust and was extremely dirty. Looking carefully, her hair seemed to be a little messy. Even though she had tidied it up, she still looked a little embarrassed. And there was a faint smell coming from her body, but it was like the smell of fertilizer. Those Furins originally did not like Rue Qinhuang Fei, this outsider, and now that there was a topic to talk about, they immediately started talking at once, saying if Shun Miao was anxious in her heart and made a mistake in her actions, or if she suddenly fell down or something. Luo Tan was fuming with anger as she heard it from behind. Only she knew how Shun Miao ended up in such a sorry state, but Shun Miao had warned her that this matter must not be spoken out. Uncle Tang was a little surprised. When he saw Shun Miao, he was preoccupied with official matters and neglected Shun Miao's appearance. Moreover, Shun Miao had always been dignified and noble, and her dressing was meticulous. There was never a time when she did not care about her appearance. Embarrassment appeared on Ji Foreign's face. Shun Miao was her niece-in-law, and to say that Shun Miao was tantamount to ruthlessly slapping her face. In the midst of the whispers, Shun Miao's expression was the most indifferent, as she did not feel that there was anything wrong with it. These madams were xenophobic and had never seen her as one of their own. For those who were picky, no matter how expensive she was dressed today, those people would not change their opinion of her. Therefore, she did not feel that her sorry state was very embarrassing in the eyes of the crowd. After all, in the future they would not have a relationship of sitting and drinking tea together. Just as Ji Foreign wanted to say a few words to smooth things over, she suddenly heard a male's laughter coming from the outer hall. Brother Li is really talented. I am unable to solve this 9 interlocking rings, but you managed to solve it in less than half an incense stick of time. Other than my third older brother, there is no one faster than you. It was Ji Yushu's voice. Following that, another voice sounded, and it seemed to be a young male's voice. It was very clear, but also somewhat hoarse. When put together, it was somewhat special. That person said, Brother Ji has given way. This one dare not be compared with His Highness Prince of the first rank. Chapter 949. Shun Miao's heart moved, and involuntarily, her heart suddenly tightened into a ball. That clear and hoarse voice was very familiar, but she could not remember who it was, but her soul trembled at this moment. She lowered her head to look at her own hands. The sleeves were very long, and only the fingertips were exposed, but those white and tender fingertips that had a few bloodstains because of last night's busy work were trembling violently at this moment. In the next moment, Ji Yushu's voice sounded, Do not say it like this. When my third older brother wakes up, he will definitely want the both of you to compete. Third older brother likes intelligent people the most, and if you go, third older brother will definitely appreciate it. The curtain of the main hall was lifted and 2 people walked out. Ji Yushu was at the front, and when he suddenly saw Shun Miao, he was surprised for a moment before disregarding the presence of all the Furins and walked over in 3 steps. Sister-in-law. He then said softly, You have returned. These days you were not around, and even when I asked Tai Yi, he was not willing to tell me. Where did you go? Shun Miao did not answer his words, and her eyes stared fixedly at the person who was following closely behind Ji Yushu. It was a young male who looked to be in his early 20s. His facial features were very plain, so plain that one would not be able to see any special features, but inexplicably attracted one's gaze. This was because his entire body exuded the aura of an intelligent person. He was wearing a rosin-colored robe and green cloth boots. His pair of eyes were like the summer sun, warm and slightly tipsy, but with a faint fanaticism. Shun Miao's body tilted and almost fell down. Luo Tan's eyes and hands were quick to support her waist from behind, as she thought that she was too tired the night before and could not hold on any longer. Ji Foreign saw her looking at that young man and said, This is one of the benefactors who saved Jing Xing. Gentlemanly, the young man bowed to Shun Miao and smiled. This one is Li Ku. Shen Miao shouted thousands of times in her heart. She would never forget this name, and would never forget this pair of seemingly warm and innocent eyes. In just a few years, he had grown to become Fu Xiuyi's left and right arm, and was able to stand up to Pei Lang as an equal, this Mei Forin's biological brother, Li Ku. She had never thought that after such a long life, she would be able to see the man in front of her again in this life. But in this strange country, in her mansion, in front of a room full of people, Li Ku had appeared so openly in front of her. Her face suddenly turned pale. On one hand, she rationally reminded herself that she couldn't do anything strange in front of these madams. On the other hand, she stared fiercely at Li Ku. She couldn't wait to rush up and tear this person into pieces, drink his blood, and eat his flesh. Mei Forin and her brothers. The reason why she ended up in such a tragic state in her previous life was because of this pair of siblings. Mei Forin won Fu Xiuyi's heart, and Li Ku's fowls and dogs rose to heaven. Li Ku was always at Fu Xiuyi's beck and call, while Mei Forin leaned against a big tree to enjoy the shade and was even more favored. Both siblings relied on each other and were promoted. Mei Forin thought of ways to marry out Wan Yu, and Li Ku thought of ways to depose the crown prince. Mei Forin caused the first household of the Shun family to be exterminated, and Li Ku had a deep friendship with the second and third households, Shun Gui and Shun Wan. This bad karma was something that could not be escaped in this lifetime. But Shen Miao did not think that it would be him who was Xie Jingxing's benefactor. She suddenly remembered what Uncle Tang said. That is a pair of siblings. Shen Miao's fierce gaze made Ji Forin stunned for a moment. She asked, Jianyang, isn't there two benefactors? Shen Miao smiled gently and slowly moved her gaze away. In her tone of voice, there was a treachery that even she herself did not notice. Where is the other one? Just now the maid poured tea on her, and I let her change her clothes. Jianyang had a lot of clothes, and there are no other female clothes in the residence. It is not good to take the maid's clothes, so I took Jianyang's clothes to deal with it. Ji Forin said. Just as she was speaking, she saw Ji Yushu looking outside the door, coming. That female had a hibiscus face and a willow waist. Her appearance was comparable to a fairy. She wore a thin gown and slowly walked over. The noon sun came in because she pulled open the curtains, and it made this young lady even more beautiful. Her light smile was dazzling, and it was as if Shen Miao was separated by a lifetime and saw the brilliance that she saw before her death. Shen Miao stood in the room with disheveled clothes and a pale face. The way she stared at that female was like a hungry wolf, like a fierce tiger, like a venomous snake lying in wait for an opportunity to strike. That person wore her clothes and came to her residence. She saved her husband and appeared in front of her with a swagger. The old enemy of the previous lifetime, the death enemy of this lifetime, the bad karma could not be cut off and was once again pushed to the edge of fate. Mainyang greets princess consort. The female said, Mainyang? No, you are not Mainyang. You are the blood of the emperor of Mingqi, Fu Xiuyi, the imperial consort of the new crown prince, Fu Ming. She is also my mortal enemy, Mei Forin. Chapter 950. Ji Forin smiled. This young lady is the one who took out the medicinal herb, young Lady Li Mei. Shen Miao stared at her. The reason why Mei Forin was able to be favored in the inner palace for so many years was because Fu Sheng was able to stand firmly as the new crown prince. 3 palaces, 6 courtyards, and 72 concubines. Which one of them was easy to deal with? Fu Xiuyi favored her alone, so she was not someone that an ordinary female could deal with. Those who were more beautiful than her were not as smart as her, and those who were smarter than her were not as beautiful as her. When it was time to advance, she would advance, and when it was time to retreat, she was obviously scheming, but she always gave others a feeling that she acted according to her nature. Arrogant, but also guarded her own sense of propriety. She had beauty, but knew when she was in her most beautiful posture. The concubines in the inner palace once discussed behind her back that if she wanted to, there was no man in this world that would not submit to her skirt. Just like at this moment, she came in wearing Shen Miao's clothes. Even if it was a dignified and somewhat conservative dress, it was worn by her in a lively manner and naturally made Shen Miao look even more wretched. Mei Foran had a pair of extremely charming eyes, like a cat that woke up in the afternoon with a careless laziness. Shen Miao's gaze on her was too strange that she could not help but look at Shen Miao. She was rather surprised, but it was just right at a point where it would not be rude. Her surprise was caught by Ji Foran and Ji Yushu, who were closest to her. Both of them looked at Shen Miao at the same time and were startled when they saw Shen Miao's eyes. But in the next second, Shen Miao lowered her head, and when she raised her head again, it changed into a smiling expression, as if those were all an illusion. "It is a neat person," Shen Miao said softly. Uncle Tang could not help but frown. Shen Miao's words were like those in the palace. No, those main wives in the residence were picky and contemptuous towards their newly married concubines. But Shen Miao was not an unreasonable person. She did not even put Lu Wanner's matter in her heart. So how would she be sensitive to be jealous of a person that she had just met for the first time? Luo Tan sighed in her heart. Previously, Uncle Tang had said that the pair of siblings were also very outstanding. When she saw Li Ku, she didn't think much of it and felt that he was at most passable. Only when she saw Li Mei did she know what it felt like to be outstanding. Luo Tan had always felt that among all the females she knew, the most unique was Shen Miao. Putting aside her looks, Shen Miao had a dignified and imposing air in her bones, which was a beauty that any female would envy. This Li Mei, however, had a completely different feeling. If one were to say that Shen Miao was a blooming peony, the king of the flowers, then this female would be a poppy. She had a strong temptation, charm, beauty, and there was a trace of unexplainable evil beauty. Shen Miao said, "Is young lady Li from the Great Liang?" "Exactly." Li Mei looked at Shen Miao in surprise and smiled. Just arrived at Longyi. Miss Li and Brother Li are from Qinzhou." Madame Ji laughed. "As soon as I arrived at Longyi, I exposed the notice at the city gates and saved Jing Xing's life." "Just arrived and you exposed the notice?" Shen Miao looked at Li Mei with a smile that was not a smile. "This should be saying that your highness is lucky? Or is it that young lady Li is lucky?" This time, everyone in the room could hear the hostility in Shen Miao's voice. Li Mei was also startled. Li Ke took a step forward and smiled as he bowed to Shen Miao. "Since His Highness the Prince of First Rank is fine, this one, an older sister, will leave first. These days in the residence, there have been many disturbances and have offended." This Li Ke's words were neither servile nor overbearing. It was as if he had heard Shen Miao's words and acted out of anger due to his pride. Ji Foran was stunned for a moment and did not have the time to ask Shen Miao what was going on. She subconsciously wanted to embrace Li Ku and Li Mei. "What disturbances? You have saved Jing Xing's life. How can it be said that one has offended? Speaking of which, we have not repaid." Chapter 9:51. But Li Mei smiled and said, "Ji Foran had already told you before that it was a coincidence that we came here to take down the results and did not think too much at that time. This herb is used to detoxify and save people's lives. Us siblings did not use it, so it was a waste to hold on to it. Things that can save people naturally have to be used to save people. This can only be considered that this herb and His Highness Prince of First Rank are fated. As for the rest, one cannot say more." When the other Furins in the hall heard this, they clicked their tongues in wonder. She was beautiful and had a good temperament. It was rare that she was generous and did not covet power. She looked like a good person, but on the contrary, Shen Miao inexplicably made things difficult for others. She did not have the bearing of a Prince Rui's consort. Li Mei then looked at Shen Miao and said apologetically, "It is just that this commoner's clothes were dirty just now, thus wearing Wang Fei's clothes. One hoped that Wang Fei would not mind. After this commoner has washed it clean, one would definitely return it to Wang Fei personally, and there would not be a trace of wearing it." Shen Miao looked at her fixedly. When Shen Miao saw Mei Foran, it was after she returned to Ming Qi from the Qin country. She had long expected that there would be many more concubines in the palace, but the only one who gave birth to a son was Mei Foran alone. At first she did not believe that Fu Xiuyi's cold temperament would dote on a female, but after seeing it with her own eyes, she had no choice but to admit it. Mei Foran was deeply doted on by Fu Xiu. So from the start when she faced Shen Miao, she never lowered her head. Even when she lowered her head, it was a fake, perfunctory, and one that did not have a trace of happiness. Even if Shen Miao was the Empress in the inner palace, it seemed that Mei Foran was a head higher than her, just like how Fu Sheng was always more doted on than Fu Ming. And right now, that woman who always gently raised her chin and looked at her with ridicule actually had a humble attitude and called herself a commoner girl and called her princess. How big was the world? So big that one's life could be repeated twice. How small was the world? So small that after 2 lifetimes, one could still meet enemies from the previous lifetime. Li Mei saw that Shen Miao did not reply and was somewhat embarrassed. She smiled and wanted to pull Li Ku away. Ji Foran wanted to persuade her, but in the end Shen Miao was the matriarch of the residence, and she had no reason to make a decision without Shen Miao. Wait, Shen Miao suddenly said. Li Ku and Li Mei were surprised for a moment before both of them turned their heads over and saw Shen Miao smiling gently like water. She said, "Since one saved His Highness' life, one is the benefactor of the entire residence of Prince Rue. If the two of you leave now, won't the Rue Qinhuang residence be criticized by others and be said to be cold-hearted? How can you say that the Wang Fu is cold-hearted?" Li Mei shook her head and smiled. "This is our idea. One must wait for His Highness to recover before leaving." Shen Miao smiled gently. "Otherwise, the residence of the Prince of First Rank cannot afford to give up halfway." There was some doubt in the meaning of these words. If the legendary medicinal herb that was passed down was actually fake, then Xie Jingxing's old illness would relapse in a few days. At that time, where would he go to find him? Ji Foran and Ji Yushu were somewhat embarrassed. Shen Miao was not an overbearing person, so why was she so harsh towards his pair of siblings? They were the benefactors, and no matter what, one could not use this kind of attitude. Even if there were suspicions in one's heart, there was no need to say it out loud. But Shen Miao knew that this pair of siblings would not stay because of the gratitude of the residents of the Prince of First Rank, but they would definitely stay because of the suspicions of the residents of the Prince of First Rank. Because in their life, they wanted to leave a good name after doing all the bad things and would not allow themselves to have a stain. How could they allow others to pour a basin of dirty water on them for no reason? Sure enough, when the words were said, Li Ku's face revealed an indignant expression as he said, "Do not worry. We will definitely be here and personally witness His Highness the Prince of First Rank recover." Chapter 952. Shen Miao smiled gently. "That is good. The residence of the Prince of First Rank owes you such a favor. If one do not stay, how can we repay?" One moment she was suspicious, and the next moment she was talking about repayment. This kind of ambiguous attitude made one somewhat unable to make heads or tails of it. Li Mei looked at her thoughtfully, and Shen Miao noticed her gaze and smiled again. "I still have some matters and will not accompany everyone here." She then said to Ji Foran, "Imu help me to look for and bring along all the Furans." Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly thought of something and stopped in front of Li Mei. He said with a smile, "I also think that this dress suits you very well, as if it was made for you. Since it fits you, there is no need to take it off and return it to me. Just take it as a gift from me." Shen Miao said to gift clothes, but it did not seem to be gifting clothes. It was as if she was bestowing something. Even though Uncle Tang was usually slick, he was somewhat confused by Shen Miao's inexplicable actions. It was only after Shen Miao left that he looked at Luo Tan. Luo Tan stuck out her tongue. "Do not ask me. I also do not know." She then turned around and left. Ji Foran looked at Li Mei and Li Ku with some shame. These days the princess has been worrying about Prince of First Rank's illness, and most likely is somewhat sensitive. One hoped that both of you can be more understanding. One can naturally understand the heart of a fist. Li Mei smiled. "Then let us go inside first to talk." Ji Foran smiled. Ji Yushu also looked at Li Ku and hesitated for a moment before saying, "Older brother Li, please." Shen Miao returned to the room, and when Jingzhe and Guyu saw her return, they first went up in surprise. "Foreign, you have finally returned. These days these servants have been anxious and feared that something bad happened to you." When they saw Shen Miao in a sorry state, both of them were stunned at the same time. Jingzhe asked, "Foreign, what is going on? Did you suffer from any grievances?" Shen Miao's clothes were dirty and messy, and her expression was strangely ugly. Upon closer inspection, there seemed to be a sense of loss, as if she had suffered a huge blow. It was still Guyu who was quick-witted and said, "Foreign, this servant will first prepare some water for you. You should first wash up and then drink a bowl of hot porridge. Left and right highness are fine, and after you have a good rest, it is not too late to slowly think about things." She then pulled Jingzhe to prepare some hot water for Shen Miao. After the hot water was prepared, Shen Miao sent the two away and sat in the wooden bucket. And the water was just warm, but at this moment Shen Miao felt that it was as cold as ice. Why would Mei Foreign appear in the Great Liang? How did she become Xie Jingxing's savior by a freak combination of factors? She had endured untold hardships to not kill Mei Foreign the moment she saw her. It was also because this was the residence of Prince Rue, and she was unable to explain her actions. But no matter how, no. And her. She, her. Shinin, she, I, and I, rank, you, I, shun you, and in the previous life, Shen Miao went to the Qin country to be a hostage, and when she returned, Mei Foreign had already entered the palace. One heard that Mei Foreign was the daughter of an official that Fu Xiu-yi met during the Eastern expedition. But now that Fu Xiu-yi had not started the Eastern expedition, naturally he would not be able to meet Mei Foreign, and now Mei Foreign was in the Great Liang. Could it be that in the previous life, Mei Foreign was also in the Great Liang? According to this time, Mei Foreign had not met Fu Xiu-yi and had already met Xie Jingxing. Then why did Mei Foreign finally become Fu Xiu-yi's favored concubine? And why did she come to Ming Qi? Could it be that this was also Xie Jingxing's intention? Shen Miao could not help but shiver. Chapter 953. In her previous life, she and Xie Jingxing did not meet and did not follow Xie Jingxing to Longyi. Xie Jingxing also did not come to the Ming Qi's tribute banquet. Shen Miao was Fu Xiu-yi's wife, and Xie Jingxing was unconscious in Longyi like now. Mei Foreign and her siblings who were passing by saved him, so they should not have a hostile relationship. If Mei Foreign was originally a Great Liang person, but at the end became the favored concubine of the Ming Qi emperor, could it be that she was also a spy? Just like how Xie Jingxing was obviously a prince of the Great Liang, but became the little marquis of the residence of the Marquis of Lin and in Ming Qi's Ding capital. Could it be that Mei Foreign was a spy sent by the Great Liang? But in this case, Mei Foreign did not need to give birth to Fu Sheng for Fu Xiu-yi and finally made Fu Sheng the crown prince. Her brows knitted tighter and tighter, but compared to that, what made her most afraid was whether Mei Foreign and Xie Jingxing were allies in the previous lifetime. If in the previous lifetime, Mei Foreign was the person that the Great Liang's imperial family sent to Ming Qi, no matter what, Shen Miao's ending was inextricably linked to the Great Liang's imperial family. Fu Ming and Wan Yu that could never be redeemed, then how would she and Xie Jingxing deal with each other? As she was lost in her thoughts, Shen Miao did not even know when the water in the wooden bucket turned cold. It was Jingzhe who could not let it go and came over to knock on the door to call her. Only then did Shen Miao leave. When she touched the water, it was strangely cold. She wiped herself clean, put on her clothes, and went out. The first thing she saw was Luo Tan. Luo Tan came forward and asked, "Biao, youngest sister, do you not like that Li Mei?" Shen Miao said, "Why say so? You're always very polite to people. But this Li Mei is very strange, just like how he treated Chang Zaiqing." Luo Tan thought about it. That Chang Zaiqing was not a good person at the end. Could it be that this Li Mei is also not one? Speaking of which, One always feel that you do not like this Li Mei more than Song Zaiqing. Shun Miao was twisting her hair with a handkerchief as she lightly said, "If I say that she is a bad person, would you believe it? Is she really a bad person?" Luo Tan was stunned. "But she doesn't look like one." Shun Miao shook her head. No matter what she said, before there was any evidence, everything was useless. She said, "Are you going back?" Luo Tan was startled. "Aren't you going to see brother-in-law?" Shun Miao paused and said, "Today one is very tired and want to sleep early." "All right." Luo Tan nodded. "You've been running around for a long time these past few days. You've lost a lot of weight. Why don't you take a good rest? I won't disturb you anymore." After thinking, he said, "If you feel that there is something wrong with that Li Mei, you can also tell me. In this great Liang, only we have the same blood in our bones." After Luo Tan left, Shun Miao's face turned cold and said to Jingzhe, "Call Mo Qing over for me." It was rare for her to be this serious, especially today. There was a faint murderous aura that made Jingzhe and Guyu not dare to ask anymore, and went out to look for people without a second word. Mo Qing quickly walked in, and Shun Miao got people to close the door tightly. When there was no one else around, she asked Mo Qing, "Where is that pair of siblings currently staying in residence?" Mo Qing thought that Shun Miao had something important to instruct him and was slightly startled when he heard it before saying, "Staying in an empty room in the side courtyard." "You kill them for me," Shun Miao said. Mo Qing was stunned. Ever since he started following Shun Miao, Mo Qing had always seen Shun Miao's situation, and it was not too much to describe it as abyss of fire. There would always be people scheming and people shooting arrows everywhere. In such an environment, Shun Miao had never suffered a loss before. She instructed Mo Qing to do this and that, and actually it was a tooth for a tooth and an eye for an eye, but it was the first time that she directly said, "You kill them for me." Chapter 954. Mo Qing looked at Shun Miao and hesitated for a while before asking, "Foreign, they have a feud with me, a blood feud that is absolutely irreconcilable. If we don't get rid of these two, there will be endless troubles in the future. Kill them for me," she said. Before Mo Qing could answer, a voice was heard from outside the window. "This is not a good plan." Both of them looked back and saw that Jingzhe had left in a hurry and did not even close the window. Coincidentally, it was dark in the evening, and one did not know when there was someone in front of the window, but it was Pei Lang. Shun Miao gestured for him to come in. Pei Lang walked in and glanced at Mo Qing before shaking his head at Shun Miao. Rashly killing is not a good strategy. Shun Miao coldly stared at him. Mei Foran's appearance made her recall the dark days in the past, and she did not have a good expression towards Pei Lang. Pei Lang rubbed his nose in confusion. He coughed twice and said, "That pair of siblings are currently living in the prince's fu. If you kill them now, the prince's fu will not be able to escape responsibility. Such a large prince's residence, with countless guards, couldn't even protect the lives of a pair of brother and sister. Do you think others would believe it? They will only say that it was done by someone from the prince's residence. Secondly, what you did outside today was too much. You probably don't know, but there are rumors outside that you were jealous of Li Mei's beauty and deliberately made things difficult for her. Previously, I didn't know why you were like this, but now that I heard that you have a grudge against them, I understand. Since you have enmity with them, you shouldn't show it. Once you show it and let others see it, if something happens to the siblings, the first person to be suspected will be you. Third, you found Mo Qing to kill for you. This shows that you do not trust others, including Prince Rue's subordinates. But was Mo Qing really a match for the other guards in the residence? Even if Mo Qing's martial arts skills were higher, it would be difficult for two fists to fight against four hands. Normally when one was caught, Prince Rue would definitely ask you the reason. You let Mo Qing take action but did not tell Prince Rue, so there must be a reason that could not be told to others. If you're discovered, you won't be able to keep your secret. Therefore, this plan is not a good one, Pei Lang said in one breath. Shun Miao stared at him for a while and suddenly laughed. "Mr. Pei, are you always so rational?" Without waiting for Pei Lang to speak, he laughed coldly. "That's true. If you aren't rational and aloof, How can you be above others? Pei Lang did not understand her words and only heard Shen Miao speaking again. What you said is right. It is indeed so. I cannot rashly kill people in the residence of a prince of Qin. Moreover, to let them die so easily, it would be too easy for these two people. Mo Qin did not speak, so Shen Miao said to him, "You go out and help me to investigate clearly first. I want to know clearly the background of this pair of siblings, no matter big or small." Mo Qin complied and left. Shen Miao took a deep breath. The enemy was right in front of her, but she could not make a move now. This kind of heart-wrenching feeling was really uncomfortable and it almost made her want to vent her anger on others. Mo Qin complied and went out. Pei Lang looked at Shen Miao and thought for a while before asking, "You have deep resentment towards this pair of siblings." Shen Miao sneered, "Why do you say such words? One have never seen that you want to take someone's life the moment you come." He looked at Shen Miao with some probing. This shows that you have fear and guard against them in your heart. This pair of siblings are very powerful. Shen Miao's heart jumped as she looked at Pei Lang in front of her. Anger rose in her heart, and she asked, "Teacher Pei is always able to understand the thoughts of others. Then do you know what kind of deep enmity I have with them? Are you willing to tell me?" Chapter 955. They owe me 2 lives that cannot be taken back. Shen Miao said, "Even if I kill them 10,000 times, it would not be enough to compensate." Pei Lang was shocked by the obvious fierceness in Shen Miao's eyes and said, "I can help you." Shen Miao stared at him. "Why should I believe you?" These words made Pei Lang somewhat surprised. In the past few days, he clearly felt that Shen Miao's attitude towards him had eased up and seemed to have let go of some things. He always felt that the relationship between them was not as tense as before. But the Shen Miao today was like a hedgehog with its spikes raised up and was on guard. Her attitude towards him had returned to the past and was even more distant than before, as if they were enemies. Pei Lang knew that this was definitely related to that pair of siblings. He pondered for a moment before asking, "Heard that that pair of siblings are from the Great Liang. In the past, you should have never been to the Great Liang and have never seen both of them. How could there be such a deep enmity with them?" "Teacher Pei," Shen Miao interrupted his words, "I have already said everything that I can tell you. You are also very clear about my attitude towards this pair of siblings. I do not expect that Teacher Pei would be able to help me strategize, but would request Teacher Pei not to interfere and not to tell this matter to others." In Pei Lang's heart, there was suddenly a kind of unbearable anger. He also had a body of pride and was willing to lead a carefree life, but was persuaded by Shen Miao using Lu Ying to enter the imperial court and became Fu Xiuyi's people, and then inexplicably became a spy and left for a foreign country. And when his sincerity was treated as speculation with ill intentions, he also had the impulse to turn around and leave. But when he saw Shen Miao's cold eyes, he felt that he could not get angry. It was as if when he saw her, he would have an inexplicable guilt attack him. He hesitated for a moment before saying, "You do not trust me." Shen Miao coldly said, "I do not trust anyone." Pei Lang left, and Shen Miao sat back at the table. It was as if she had used up all the strength in her body and felt very weak. Li Mei and Li Ku were living in the residence of Prince Rui with such an identity, and one could not kill them, but could only trap them in this residence of the prince of first rank. This great enmity must be avenged. Otherwise, she was not fit to be the mother of 2 children. Just as she was thinking, Jingzhi pushed the door and walked in and said to Shen Miao, "Foreign, His Highness just woke up and wants to see Foreign." Shen Miao was surprised for a moment, and her face revealed a complicated expression. After a moment, she said, "I know. The Great Liang's imperial family, Xie Jingxing, Mei Foreign siblings, all of these possible relationships were all guessed by Shen Miao, and the more she thought about it, the more terrifying it was. If those frightening conjectures were true, Shen Miao did not know how she should react. Mei Foreign's appearance disrupted her plans and mood, and she even found it hard to face Xie Jingxing. She was afraid that others would see the hatred in her heart, and was also afraid that Xie Jingxing would confirm the terrifying guess in her heart. The bedroom was filled with a strong medicinal fragrance, and the servants coming and going were all busy with their own things. Now, that Xie Jingxing was awake, there were many things that were worth thinking about, and his condition needed to be taken care of. Gao Yang was carrying his medicine box as he walked out, and was surprised for a moment when he saw Shan Miao. He just woke up once in the morning and asked about you. His wound hasn't healed yet, so you should go along with him. Shan Miao complied and pushed the door to enter. Xie Jingxing was only wearing his middle clothes and an outer robe as he was half leaning on the couch reading a book. One did not know if it was because of his injuries, but these days he looked thinner and the contours were even more distinct. When he was quiet, he was like a noble son of a noble family as he elegantly flipped through the book. One would not be able to tell that a few days ago he was walking on the line of life and death. Shan Miao wanted to enter, but just as she took a step out, she was somewhat hesitant, as if she took this step, she would have to face a problem that she did not dare to face. She was afraid of the answer and instinctively wanted to avoid this problem. However, in life, there was no problem that could be avoided forever. Xie Jingxing's eyes did not lift up as he lightly said, "Since one is here, why not come in?" Shan Miao paused and clenched her fists before slowly walking in. Nearing the couch, she then sat down and said, "Are you all right?" Hearing that Uncle Tang said that you were already awake, one thought that you wanted to rest and did not disturb. Most likely, Xie Jingxing's body was not fully recovered as his voice was still hoarse. But his lips suddenly hooked up, and one did not know what kind of tone it was. Interesting. Shan Miao looked at him, and his eyes were still on the book as his voice was somewhat cold. "You do not dare to look at me. How could it be?" Shan Miao smiled gently. "Is it that the illness has muddled you?" Xie Jingxing also smiled gently, but the smile did not reach his eyes. With a pa sound, he closed the book and threw it to the side before turning his head. Ever since Shan Miao came in, this was the first time he looked at Shan Miao. His eyes were sharp, but there was a hint of anger as he asked, "Shan Miao, is it that if I did not let anyone call you, you would not come over?" Chapter 956. Shan Miao, is it that if I do not let others call you, you will not come over? The atmosphere in the room was cold, and his gaze was as sharp as a blade. Even though his face was pale, his aura was never weak. Shan Miao said, "You're thinking too much. Are you hiding something from me?" Xie Jingxing asked. Shan Miao shook her head no. How to say it? In all fairness, this lifetime was completely different from the previous lifetime, and Xie Jingxing might not really have any involvement with Mei Foreign. But to pull Fu Ming and Wan Yu into it, she was unable to look at this matter rationally. If she did not have any shred of feelings for Xie Jingxing, then perhaps it would be much simpler. The most frightening thing was that the feelings would be mixed with other things. Hate would not be hate, love would not be love, and at the end it would breed countless fears, and one would not even have the courage to face the problem. Xie Jingxing looked at her deeply, and Shan Miao was afraid that some of her secret thoughts would be seen. So she said, "Since your body is better, then you should rest more. The night is very long. Take the medicine and sleep early." She stood up and turned to leave. "You are that impatient to leave?" Xie Jingxing's voice came from behind, and there seemed to be some unseen grievances. "These few days one heard that you did not come to see me. But the first time I opened my eyes, I thought that you must be frightened." His lips pulled up and his eyes drooped down. "It is me who is thinking too much." Shan Miao did not say anything and pushed the door open to walk out. After walking a few steps, she suddenly stopped. Xie Jingxing would definitely discover her abnormality. He was such a sensitive person, and if he were to discover it, her secret would not be able to be explained. Song Zaiqing's matter was after all related to her family, but she had never seen Li Mei and younger brother before, and they were Xie Jingxing's benefactors. It was because the entire Long Yi knew about it that nothing could happen to Li Mei and younger brother, and once she was suspected, it would even throw dirty water on the residence of Prince Rue. On one side was a possible disaster, and on the other side was to eradicate the enemies of the previous lifetime as soon as possible. It was torture for Shan Miao to let them live in this world. It was also related to Xie Jingxing. Shen Miao felt that after being in the Great Liang for so many days, she finally met her biggest calamity. Ba Jiao carried the empty medicine bowl over and was surprised when he saw Shen Miao. "Why did Foreign come out so quickly? Won't you accompany Master for a while longer?" "No need," Shen Miao said. "All of you take good care of him." She walked forward without turning her head back. 2 days later, Mo Qing came to Shen Miao with the news that he had inquired. He said, "This pair of siblings are from Qinzhou. They are the children of a merchant family, but they were adopted. The merchant's wife had died early, and the master had passed away not long ago. Before he died, he told them that they weren't his biological parents. After burying his adoptive father, they came to Longyi to look for their relatives. But there aren't any clues." "Impossible." Shen Miao stood up, and Mo Qing said, "There's only so much information that can be inquired. This subordinate let people inquire in Qinzhou, and all the neighbors know that they had watched this pair of siblings grow up." "Are you sure that Li Mei did not go to Mingqi?" Shen Miao's nails unconsciously dug into her palms. She had never traveled far before, and this was the first time she left a place outside of Qinzhou. Mo Qing said. Shen Miao closed her eyes. These 2 days, Li Mei and Li Ku were in the residence of the prince of first rank and would occasionally go to the Ji residence to chat with Ji Foreign, but did not do anything. Shen Miao asked, "Then did they see your highness?" But they did not. Without passing the message, no one can personally see your highness, even if it is the benefactor. Mo Qing answered. Chapter 9:57. I know. You can go down and continue to pay attention to this pair of siblings. If there is any movement, immediately inform me. Shen Miao said. Mo Qing complied and retreated. After Mo Qing left, Shen Miao sat back on the chair and her gaze gradually deepened. Since Mo Qing was inquiring, he would definitely not miss the slightest clue. In this kind of situation, he was able to find out such news. Either this lifetime was really different from the previous lifetime. From a Ming-Chi official's daughter to a great Liang merchant's daughter, it was really strange. Either that or this pair of siblings were too good at concealing themselves. Their background was clean, and there were no traces of them at all. In this way, even if she told Madame Ji that these 2 people had ill intentions, no one would believe her. The Shang siblings grew up in Qinzhou and came to Longye for the first time to look for their relatives. Who would believe that they wanted to murder the prince's mansion? She got up and originally wanted to go and see Xie Jingxing. But when she thought that the Li siblings were still using the name of Xie Jingxing's benefactor, and that the great Liang imperial family and the Li siblings might have a connection, she felt that it was difficult to face. In the end, he didn't take that step. Weiyang Palace. When Empress Xianda heard the palace made in front of her finish speaking, she finally let out a breath. A relaxed smile also appeared on her face. She said, "Since he's awake, at least it's more daunting than dangerous. Come, take the 200-year-old ginsengs in Ben Gong's box to the prince's fu. Let the prince nourish his body." She suddenly thought of something and said, "Does the emperor know about this matter?" "His Majesty already knows," the palace maid said with a smile. "That's perfect. I'll talk to him about this." Empress Xianda was about to stand up. The palace maid hesitated and said, "His Majesty is currently at Imperial Concubine Jing's, probably celebrating." Empress Xianda's movements paused, and then she smiled warmly and said, "If that's the case, then there's no need for me to go." An imperceptible trace of sadness flashed through her eyes. "However, Your Highness, when this servant heard that His Highness had woken up, I heard some of the madams discussing that." "Say what?" "They said that the Qin Wang Fei doesn't seem to like the siblings who saved His Highness the Prince's life and is making things difficult for them. Perhaps it's because she's jealous that the other party is more beautiful than her, or perhaps she doesn't want His Highness to be saved at all." At the end of her sentence, her voice gradually weakened, as if she also knew that her words were disgraceful. "Nonsense!" Empress Xianda shouted harshly. "How can Qin Wang Fei not want His Highness Qin Wang to be saved?" The palace maid was so frightened that she didn't dare to raise her head. Empress seemed to calm down after this shout. She said coolly, "You want to say that Qin Wang Fei is jealous? This consort feels that this pair of brother and sister aren't ordinary people to be able to stir up such a storm just by being a benefactor." Weiyang Palace was silent. No one spoke. Empress Xianda sat on the high seat. Her gaze changed, but she seemed extremely lonely. For more than 10 days, Shen Miao locked herself in her room and carefully thought about the best of both worlds. However, no matter how she thought, she could not be sure that there would not be any future troubles. The opportunity that Li Mei and younger brother appeared in this lifetime placed the two of them in a very sensitive position. It was almost a natural barrier that Shen Miao could not move at all. And in these 10 days, she had been deliberately avoiding Xie Jingxing, because every time she faced Xie Jingxing, there would be countless suspicions in her mind. If the Li Mei and younger brother siblings were really related to Xie Jingxing in the previous life, Shen Miao really did not know how to face Xie Jingxing. She was afraid that their fate as husband and wife would come to an end. Chapter 958. Because with Wan Yu and Fu Ming between them, she could not act as if nothing had happened. This morning, when Shen Miao woke up, her expression was very ugly. Jingzhe and Gu Yu could see that something was wrong with her. After asking a few times, Shen Miao only brushed it off perfunctorily, but her heart was bewildered. Last night, she had a dream the entire night. She dreamt that she was in the Ding capital's Kuining Palace. Wan Yu and Fu Ming were eating fruits and chatting in front of her. As they were talking, Wan Yu and Fu Ming's mouth started to bleed at the same time. She panicked and went to look for the imperial physician. When she looked up, she saw Mei Furen and Fu Xiao Yi walking over. Fu Xiao Yi ordered people to tie her up and threw Wan Yu and Fu Ming, whose life and death were uncertain, into the palace. Then a big fire burned the entire Kuining Palace. The raging fire licked the Kuining Palace and quickly engulfed Wan Yu and Fu Ming. She screamed at the top of her lungs but saw Mei Furen smiling lightly and said to her, "You have lost." Shen Miao suddenly woke up from her dream. Even though the summer sun was in the morning, it was almost as hot as midday, almost dazzling one's eyes. Shen Miao broke out in cold sweat and her entire body was drenched in sweat. However, Wan Yu's and Fu Ming's desperate expression filled her mind, making her feel restless. Just as she walked out of the courtyard, she saw Li Mei, who was walking out. When Li Mei saw Shen Miao, she immediately stopped and bowed to her. Shen Miao's eyes darkened. Every time she met this female in front of her, she had to restrain her killing intent. Especially that dream last night, she almost could not help but reach out to strangle the other party to death. Her fingertips that were hidden in her sleeves pricked her palm, and there was a slight pain, which made her somewhat awake. Shen Miao looked at Li Mei and said, "Li young lady, where are you going?" Her tone was stiff, and there was a strange undertone in it that could not be concealed no matter how hard she tried. Li Mei smiled. "His Highness the Prince of First Rank has awakened and summoned us siblings over." Second younger brother had already gone over, and this commoner girl was also planning to rush over. She then looked at Shen Miao with some shame. After disturbing the residents for so many days, after seeing His Highness the Prince of First Rank, this commoner girl should leave. The princess consort has taken care of us a lot, but she still hasn't said a word of thanks. Shen Miao sneered in her heart. She had never let anyone take care of these two people, so it should be Ji Forn's idea. In addition, everyone in the residence saw that they saved Xie Jingxing's life, so they were more polite to the two of them. "Why are you talking about leaving?" Shen Miao said indifferently. "We have not properly repaid you." Li Mei shook her head. "We came to Longyi to look for our relatives. Since His Royal Highness has recovered, we should leave." Shen Miao's lips twitched, and she did not even bother to respond with a smile. Shen Miao really could not believe Li Mei if it was to look for relatives. Who knew what they came to Longyi for? Li Mei looked at Shen Miao and suddenly said in a soft voice, "Princess Consort, has this common girl offended the princess consort in some way?" The The princess consort does not seem to like this common girl. When the words were said, Shun Miao's attitude towards Li Mei was somewhat obvious. Towards the benefactor who saved Xie Jingxing. Other than seeing her once on the day of her return, Shun Miao did not see her again. Shun Miao's actions were appropriate and gentle. So it was definitely not because she had forgotten, but it was intentional. As for why it was like this, it made one puzzled. I indeed do not like you. Shun Miao raised her chin. She could feign civility to her enemies, but she could not do this to Mei Foreign. She wanted to directly express her hatred. If it was not for the residence of Prince Rui, if it was not because she was unable to explain it to Xie Jingxing. She chuckled. Do you want to know why? Chapter 959. Li Mei looked at her in puzzlement. That pair of charming eyes were filled with puzzlement and seemed to contain some sincerity, totally different from the contempt in Shun Miao's memories. Instinct, Shun Miao said coldly. Then, without turning her head back, she brought Jingzhe and Guyu to walk past Li Mei. Li Mei stood there for a while, shook her head, and left. And Shun Miao, who was standing far away, looked at her back view with a cold expression. Jingzhe and Guyu did not dare to say a single word. They did not know why, but they always felt that when Shun Miao faced this unfamiliar Mei Foreign, she seemed to become very scary. That kind of terror was something that they had never experienced before from Shun Miao. About to leave, Shun Miao whispered to herself before coldly saying, "Can you leave?" She turned around, called Mo Qing over. Mo Qing quickly came to Shun Miao's room and said, "Foreign, this subordinate has a matter to report." Shun Miao said, "Put your matter aside first. I have more important matters." Mo Qing was puzzled. "Foreign, please speak. Kill Li Mei and Li Ke for me." Mo Qing was stunned. Shun Miao said, "I have thought about it again and again. Even though this matter is not appropriate, and perhaps it would bring disaster to the residence of Prince Rui, but if these two people are left alive, it would be a bigger variable. I would rather be charged with other crimes than to let these two people live and become a bigger threat in the future. These two wolves haven't fully grown their claws yet. Once they're fully grown, it won't be easy to kill them. I don't want to think about this matter. I just want to ask you, can you think of a way to kill them?" Shun Miao asked in a low voice. Her voice echoed in the room, as if it came from the depths of hell, but with a deep determination. Wan Yu and Fu Ming's dream reminded her that she could not be indecisive. Since there was no way to have the best of both worlds, she would kill them first. Since this pair of siblings were only the children of a merchant, it would be much less troublesome to kill them. If they were to find someone to rely on in the future, it would be even more difficult. Moreover, Li Mei also said today that they would be leaving Prince Rui's residence soon. Where could they go after they left? Could they go to a place that could protect them? Shun Miao thought that one must pay attention to the timing of killing and could not drag it any longer. As long as Li Mei and Li Ke were alive, she would not be able to get over it and would suspect Xie Jingxing. In the choice between her previous life and this life, she chose to kill Li Mei and Li Ke now. As for what role the imperial family of the Liang had played in her previous life, she did not want to pursue it. This was the biggest concession she could make for Xie Jingxing, and also the only concession she could make. Mo Qing suddenly knelt down and said, "Forgive this subordinate for being unable to do it." Shun Miao stared at him. This subordinate wanted to talk to Madame about this matter. "I have just inquired about the news that the relative that Li Mei's siblings are looking for is the current Prime Minister Yi Maokai. Li Mei's siblings are Yi Foreign's children." Mo Qing said, "The Yi family has already sent people over." Shun Miao staggered back and said, "What did you say?" "This subordinate has failed Madame's trust. Please punish me." The room was silent for a long time, and Mo Qing did not dare to look up. He did not know why, but he could almost imagine the disappointment in Shun Miao's eyes, and that kind of powerlessness made him not have the face to look at Shun Miao's expression, as if he was unable to bear this helplessness. One did not know how long had passed before Shun Miao's voice was heard from above. Her voice was desolate and tired as she said, "Do not blame you. They came prepared, and I was not determined. Thus I hesitated and missed the opportunity." Chapter 960. But her voice suddenly turned sharp, as if a sharp blade had appeared from its scabbard, sharp and murderous. Even if there is the Yi family, I must take these 2 lives. Longyi was different from the Ding capital. The Ding capital was located in the north, and the scenery was the most flourishing in winter when it was the most magnificent. Longyi was located in the south, and the best season was summer when the night was as cool as water and the stars were like the Milky Way. The courtyard was the most secluded one, but it couldn't block out the night. A pot of tea and a game of chess seemed to be the most satisfying thing in the world. The green-clad male drank alone under the moonlight, as if he was a green bamboo that grew in the forest. When Xin Miao came to the courtyard, she saw such a scene. Pei Lang sat in front of the stone table, drinking tea and playing chess. In fact, he was often like this. Even when he became the country tutor, his temperament was still as cold as before. Xin Miao always felt that it was not a good decision for Fu Xiao to let Pei Lang enter the court. With Pei Lang's temperament, he was more suitable to live a carefree life. He read books, loved saints, liked to play chess, flowers, and bamboos. All of these were elegant things, but what he did was the methods of internal strife in the court. Teacher Pei. Xin Miao sat down opposite him. When Pei Lang looked up and saw that it was Shen Miao, he was slightly surprised. That day, Shen Miao mercilessly cut off the relationship between the both of them. No matter how much Pei Lang tolerated, he was after all a male and had self-esteem. These days he did not take the initiative to look for Shen Miao. Moreover, Xin Miao was not one who would take the initiative to lower her head. Now that she appeared in front of him, Pei Lang's mood also fluctuated slightly. Previously, Teacher Pei said that he would help me. Does this sentence still count now? Xin Miao did not intend to have a heart-to-heart talk or play chess with him and directly asked, "Which matter are you talking about?" Pei Lang put down the teacup in his hands. "Everything but the current matter is that I want the lives of Li Mei and younger brother. This is very difficult." Pei Lang smiled bitterly. "It is more difficult than you imagine." Shen Miao said, "These 2 siblings have a relationship with the Yi family and said that they are Yi Mao-sized children. Most likely it will soon become Yi Mei and Yi Ku. It is impossible to simply kill them secretly. But I can't let them go." She said can't and not don't want to, which meant that no matter what, she wanted the lives of the siblings. Pei Lang frowned. "But why must you take their lives?" Xin Miao's smile was somewhat cold as she said, "Not everything must have an answer. You ask me why, I still want to ask other questions. If I can't find the answer, how can I tell you?" Pei Lang looked at the chess pieces on the table and smiled after a while. "I understand. I won't continue to ask you the reason, but what do you want me to do? You are not good at killing people, but I know your ability." Shen Miao said, "Since it has become Yi Mei and Yi Ku, then the one to deal with is the Yi family. I want to deal with the Ye family. No one knows better than you how to topple a family in the imperial court. I want you to be my advisor." Pei Lang was startled for a moment before shaking his head. I do not understand your meaning. Even though I am by Prince Ding's side, it is only to give advice on political matters and do not have the experience of overthrowing the enemy. How can you say such words?" Xin Miao smiled slightly, but her heart was thinking that she naturally knew. Pei Lang looked like a gentle and refined person, but his methods were completely different and ruthless. When Fu Xiao just ascended the throne, Prince Zhou's men were eyeing him covetously and tried to make a comeback, but at the end they were all defeated by Pei Lang's hands. Chapter 961. I only ask you, will you help or not? Xin Miao asked. Pei Lang muttered. The Yi family's current situation in Long Yi is very subtle. The emperor of the Great Liang wanted to use the Yi clan to deal with the Lu clan. The Yi clan did not have any children, so they were easier to control. But if you have a pair of children, the structure will be broken again. Perhaps the Yi family will change sides, perhaps they will fight with the Lu family, perhaps they will ally with the imperial family to deal with the Lu family. The appearance of Yi Mei and Yi Ku is an extremely subtle point. The royal family's attitude towards the Yi family would also affect the Yi family's attitude towards the royal family. At this time, the royal family could not act rashly, so they had to be more polite to the Yi family. And you are the princess of Prince Rue's residence. Prince Rue is the emperor's younger brother and is tied to the imperial family. If you want the lives of the Yi siblings, the great Liang emperor will be the first to not agree. Shen Miao stared at him. I naturally know this, so the method I want you to think of is for the royal family to take the initiative to deal with the Yi family. Whoever moves first loses. The royal family is watching, and so is the Yi family. If you really want the lives of the Yi siblings, you must first find a mistake in the Yi family and grab hold of the Yi family's weakness. It's best to stir up a dispute between the Yi family and the royal family. Shen Miao asked, what about the Liu family? Pei Lang was stunned. What if I let the Liu family and the Yi family fight? Pei Lang shook his head. You only think that way because you want to protect the prince's residence. But I must warn you that it is impossible to have the best of both worlds. The Liu family is not a fool. At this time, they will not take the initiative to fight with the Yi family. Shen Miao said, I understand. You really do not hesitate to offend the imperial family to deal with the Yi family? Pei Lang frowned. If you really oppose the imperial family, then between you and Prince Ru. Pei Lang did not continue speaking as there would inevitably be animosity. Even though he found it strange that Shen Miao's attitude towards Imei and her brother was so unyielding that she would not hesitate to perish together with them. What do the Yi Mei siblings do? I do not have a second path to take. Shen Miao's eyes drooped down. Perhaps I do not have fate with the imperial family. In the past and present lifetime, she was unable to escape the sacrifice of the imperial power. But so what? How do you plan to sow discord? Pei Lang asked. This is the matter that I want to discuss with you. Shen Miao said. The Great Liang and Ming Qi were two entirely different battlefields. Thus one was not familiar with the various forces in Long Yi and now knew even less. She was unable to face Xie Jingxing calmly, but was not willing to let her enemy live well under her eyelids. After thinking about it, even if she had to perish indiscriminately, she would take revenge for Wan Yu and Fu Ming. And Pei Lang was her only ally. Pei Lang was good at scheming and plotting. He was the best at analyzing the situation of the imperial court, slandering without leaving a trace, easily sowing discord. This imperial preceptor was truly an expert. She wanted to join hands with Pei Lang to reap the lives of these two people. Even if Yi Jia's brother and sister have a huge backer, she will also bring down the backer. This discussion lasted deep into the night. When Shen Miao felt that it was time to return to her courtyard, it was already very late. Only Jing Zhe and Gu Yu accompanied her. She returned to her own courtyard and pushed open the door to enter the room. Just as she was about to take off her outer clothes, her movements suddenly paused, and she turned her head over. Xie Jingxing was hugging his chest as he sat in front of her desk, flipping through a book in boredom. Why did you come over? Shen Miao asked. Can you get down from the bed? Today Xie Jingxing was going to see Li Mei and her brother, but Shen Miao did not want to think about it, and even more did not want to see it. She was afraid that once she saw this scene, she would involuntarily suspect some terrifying possibilities. What the eyes do not see, the heart does not grieve, but she did not expect that Xie Jingxing would actually come knocking on her door. Xie Jingxing smiled lazily and did not answer her question. It is so late. Why did you only come back now? Could not sleep. Shen Miao said, so strolled outside. Xie Jingxing threw the book in his hands onto the table and said, Oh, did you go to drink tea and drink with Pei Lang? This posture, it seemed that he was here to denounce her. Shen Miao's mind was filled with Yi Mei's matter as she asked with a frown, What do you want to say? Half a month, Xie Jingxing said. Shen Miao stared at him. He also stared at her, and his complicated gaze made Shen Miao's heart palpitate for a moment. He said, I have been awake for half a month, and you only came over to see me once. Did you forget that you are the Wang Fei of the residence of Prince Rue and my wife? He said. Shen Miao did not speak, as this could not be explained at all. But Xie Jingxing stared at her, and his gaze was disappointed and slightly angry as he said, I waited here for you for an entire night, and you were drinking tea and playing chess with Pei Lang. Shen Miao, could it be that you like that scholar? Shen Miao's heart suddenly surged with an unknown fire. She was entangled with Yi Mei's matter and could not sleep at night. Because there was a residence of Prince Rue in the middle, she did not dare to rashly move. Thus she missed the best opportunity and was unable to kill the enemy. In such a quagmire-like place, Xie Jingxing was actually able to put her and Pei Lang together. She said, "What does that have to do with you?" Xie Jingxing pulled Shen Miao in front of him. He pulled so hard that Shen Miao almost fell down and was supported by him. Xie Jingxing pinched her chin and said word by word, "If I want you now, then there would be a relationship." Shen Miao frowned and said, "Perhaps our alliance is too hasty." Xie Jingxing paused and looked at her deeply. "Perhaps?" He suddenly let go of his hand and stood up all of a sudden. With his back facing Shen Miao, he said lightly, "Is your heart made of iron? In your eyes, there's only use and schemes, but I am a living person. Actually, from the beginning to the end, your heart has never been moved." He said indifferently, "You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.